Ashes and silence, the machinery of the Holocaust. It did not begin with death camps. It began with silence and with words. In 1933, Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany, not as a conqueror but as a chancellor. The Nazi Party took control through a combination of nationalism, propaganda, and deep-rooted anti-Semitism. Jews, who had lived in Europe for centuries, became targets of state-sponsored hate. First came the laws. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 stripped Jews of citizenship. They could no longer marry non-Jews. They were banned from professions, pushed from schools, and marked as subhuman. The German people were taught to fear and blame them for the nation's suffering. Then came segregation. Jews were forced into ghettos, cramped, disease-ridden slums walled off from the world. In Warsaw alone, nearly 500,000 people were confined to a space of less than 1.5 square miles. Food rations were calculated to starve. Disease spread faster than hope. But this was only the beginning. By 1941, Hitler's plan evolved into what the Nazis called the final solution, the systematic, industrialized extermination of Jews across Europe. Trains packed with men, women, and children rumbled through the continent, sealed, unmarked, silent. Their destination: death camps like Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Sobibor, and Majdanek. Places engineered not for imprisonment but for annihilation. At Auschwitz, over 1.1 million people were murdered. Many were gassed within hours of arrival. They were told they were taking showers. Mothers clutched infants. Elderly men leaned on canes. The doors sealed. Zyklon B gas hissed into the darkness. Those who weren't killed immediately became slave laborers. Starved, beaten, worked to death. Experiments were carried out on children without anesthesia. Twins were mutilated in the name of science. This wasn't madness, it was bureaucracy. Every name, every number, every gold tooth pulled from a corpse was logged. Death was measured in statistics. Murder became paperwork. The world didn't know, or worse, chose not to know. Reports leaked, witnesses spoke, but the scale was unimaginable. How do you measure the murder of 6 million? How do you comprehend the obliteration of entire communities, entire families, entire languages and legacies? When Allied forces finally liberated the camps in 1945, they found the skeletal remains of human beings still alive, too weak to speak, too traumatized to cry. Piles of shoes, mountains of hair, warehouses of suitcases labeled with names that would never again be spoken. The Holocaust was not just a genocide. It was a calculated erasure of people, of culture, of memory. They called it the final solution. But the final word should belong to the victims. We remember not just to mourn, but to warn. Because it began with lies, with propaganda, with silence, and in the end, silence is never innocent. Thank you again for watching the Silent Archives, where we bring you short stories of our past. Hope to see you again. Please share, like and subscribe. And remember, history forgotten is history repeated.